Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Not Another Mindset Show. This is going to be a fun episode. And if you don't think sales and selling and marketing and advertising is fun, then you definitely need to listen to this episode because we're going to start off by talking about your mindset around sales and selling. But this episode is really for anyone who's in a position in their business, in their career. I say that business and career, but the reality is we're kind of selling all of the time. We're selling things to ourselves to get ourselves to do things. We're selling the vegetables to our children. We're basically selling all of the time. And I do want to dive right in with your mindset around sales and selling. So if you are someone who, and we're going to talk about this like from a business context, right? Like I'm not going to talk about kids and vegetables and how we're selling the broccoli to our 2-year-olds. Um, but that is kind of what we're doing all the time. So we are going to talk about this from like a business and a career perspective. So if you're doing any selling, sales, marketing, advertising in your business, you're trying to attract more clients, most of you are health and fitness professionals that are listening to this podcast, then this is going to be really helpful for you. We talk about behavior change, mindset, psychology in every single one of these episodes, but I have not dedicated a specific episode to talking about how to leverage the science of behavior change and psychology in your sales and selling tactics. Maybe tactic isn't the right word. I think why, and I'm fairly certain I'm correct here. I think why most people hate sales and selling or don't see themselves as a salesperson is because it feels like tactics, right? And when I use the word tactic, especially the way that I'm like saying that word right now, it's like the icky side of sales, right? That we're manipulative or we're using the understanding of how humans think and the decisions that they make in order to sell them something that they don't need. Like that is not what we are talking about today. But I do think that that's where the perspective comes from, that like I hate selling. I love coaching, but I hate having to promote myself and sell my services. So sales mindset, like this is where we have to start. We have to start here. Do not skip over this and get right into the quote unquote tactics, okay? Because it's so important. Even if you feel like you're listening to this and you're like, no, I don't really feel that way. Like I actually do enjoy selling and marketing. Please still pay attention to this because I'm sure that there's something that you could learn about yourself. And I actually have a DIY workshop mini series called The Psychology of Signing More Clients. And I'm going to be talking about some stuff that's actually in that DIY workshop, but we go in so much more detail and depth in that workshop. So if you get through this podcast episode and you're like, oh my God, give me more of this, give me more tactics that are actually like humane and don't make me feel icky when I'm selling and help me feel more confident in my sales skills, then that workshop is for you. I will leave the link to that in the show notes so you can check it out if that's something that you feel called to look at. But the first thing I want you to think about is just like what story you tell yourself about sales, selling, marketing. That it is this like icky thing, that it's something that nobody wants to hear. Because like the truth is, people want to buy things. You listening to this, you want to buy things. You just don't always love being sold to, right? But at the same time, don't tell me you hate it all the time, because when your favorite brands are sending you marketing emails with discounts, or like there's a couple clothing brands that I like and they send a lot of emails, but I open every single one because I'm like, oh, what did they drop now? Or like, what are they selling now? And like, I want them to sell to me, right? And there's a lot of those instances, I'm sure, in your own life. So if you can immediately just put yourself in that perspective of like, wait, yeah, you're right. I like to buy things and I do like to be sold to. It just has to be done in a way that feels good. So, what story are you telling yourself about your skills as a salesperson, if we want to call it that? Because I know it can be definitely hard, especially if you're a health and fitness professional and you are out here just like trying to help people and teach and coach and develop relationships with your clients, that, okay, well, now I gotta go get on my Instagram stories and like talk about my offer. Like that's it. It sometimes doesn't feel in alignment, but you can't help people without selling to them. Point blank, period, end of story. So what does sales and selling mean to you? What experiences, people, situations have actually crafted that? Because there's a reason that you feel that way. So where did those feelings come from? Like, where is it stemming from? And if you can figure that out, like you had an experience in the past, like I've definitely had like icky experiences with people selling to me before. There's actually, I can like tell you a quick little story here. I was looking into, actually, what's hilarious is that I was looking into a company who would come into my coaching business to help teach my sales staff about selling and how to like help them with different strategies and just how to like hold themselves on calls and help them kind of feel more confident in speaking to people and talking about the offer. And I hated the process that they put me through in order to hire them. So, there's the standard, like fill out an application, get on a consult call, blah, blah, blah. So I did the consult call. I wasn't really sure how I felt about it. And you have to remember, especially in situations like this, how someone sells to you is how they're going to teach you how to sell, right? So if we're talking about like business coaching and stuff like that. So I got off that call and was like, didn't really love how I was being sold this program. And then this man followed up with me with these text messages that were just so uncomfortably rude, honestly. Like, when I tell you, I can't remember the exact words verbatim, but it was along the lines of, I think I said like, hey, I'm going to go talk to my team about this and make sure that they're on board. It's something that they want to do, like hi, hello, autonomy. I'm not just going to go to my sales staff and be like, you guys are all doing this now. No. It's important for my people to feel bought in and like that they feel good about what they're going to be going through. And when he texted me later, he was like, hey, I know you said you were going to go talk to your team, but aren't you the business owner? Don't you make the decisions? Why are you letting your team make them for you? It was like something along those lines. And I literally was just like, I looked at this message and was like, what? Excuse me? And I had to like, the fact that I had to go back to this man and explain myself and say, hey, the people on my team are very important to me. And I want to make sure that they feel good about the decisions that I'm making that are going to impact them. So this has nothing to do with me not being like a good decision maker in my business. This is everything to do with me being a good leader, actually. I don't think I said it to that extent because at this point I was already like, you literally unsold me with this text message. And then it gets worse. Like, I think a few days later, he follows up, if you can even call this a follow-up, literally sends me a text message with a question mark in it. That's it. A question mark. I just like, anyway, I just can't believe it. So anyway, yeah, if you sell that way, you should feel icky and it should not feel good. But I think to this guy, I think he felt fine, but morals aren't for everybody. But that said, we're thinking more about that. Like, it's not like I went through that experience and now it was like, man, this is how everybody feels when I sell my programs or promote my offers or talk about the things that I have for sale. Like, no, it's not, because I do things very differently, right? So again, ultimately, where you got your perspective about selling and sales from is important to unpack, because that is why you feel that way. So if you can kind of like work through that, and like if you had an experience like I did or other experiences that are similar and it's now changing the way that you feel about selling, like go back and unpack that and go like, no, because I'm not just like sending people a question mark or questioning their leadership abilities, So as I mentioned too, your really always selling in your day-to-day life. And I think that can sometimes kind of just like take the pressure off of what selling is, if you can look at it from that perspective, selling the broccoli to your 2-year-old type of thing. So indirectly, both in your business, in your coaching, in your life, you're kind of selling people on things. You're selling yourself on like getting yourself to the gym or starting that meal prep, or dude, the amount of selling myself on sitting down to record this podcast, because it is a Sunday at 5 p.m., but I leave for a trip to Australia tomorrow, and I obviously cannot record podcasts while I'm in Australia. But I sat in this chair for a solid like 10 to 15 minutes just scrolling on my phone, staring at the camera, just, that recording button waiting to be pushed. I had to sell myself on like actually doing this and like what the rest of my evening is going to look like based on my decisions and blah. Anyway, so you're doing it all the time. Like it really is kind of just part of our day-to-day lives if you really think about it. So the other thing is, I've heard coaches say this before too, that I just hate feeling like I'm taking money from people. In what world are you just taking money from people? I mean, if you are, please stop doing that, but that's not what you're doing. It's an exchange. And it's an exchange for a solution. Like think about a time you paid for something and you got like a fantastic solution from it, or it changed your life in some way. Like that could have been a $50 meal that you paid $50 for a meal, and you left that going like, oh my God, that was the best filet I have ever had in my life. Do you feel like that restaurant just took money from you? Or even if it wasn't the best filet of your life, you still got fed, right? And I mean, it could be a $50 meal, or it could be a $50,000 master's degree, right? And it's an exchange. You're handing over money. No one's taking it from you in order to get a solution, to get an outcome that you desire. And that is the exact same thing that's happening with your prospective clients or buyers if you sell something outside of like a one-on-one coaching offer. It's an exchange. It's not just taking money from people. And I would really, if that's how you feel, like I would really explore that and try to better understand what's going on there. I do think for a lot of people it can come down to, honestly, this sounds like very severe, but it could come down to like a self-worth thing, especially if you are selling yourself in a way. If you are like an online health and fitness coach, like I know so many of you are, you're selling a service that is you, right? You're selling a relationship with yourself and your own expertise and everything. It can feel very personal. So if you feel like you're just taking money from people, but yet it's a service that you're selling that you yourself is providing, why would you ever feel like they're just taking money from you? It should feel like, no, I have something so special to help these people change their lives, and it is a very even exchange. So something else to noodle on there. You have to also remember, in the health and fitness industry specifically, but I mean, this goes for so many. I think like I have done a lot of work like on my skin, and both like skincare industry, health industry that we're in with health and fitness coaching, like people are spending so much money already, and so much money on things that aren't working for them. Like I don't even want to disclose how much money I have spent on my skin trying to get it under control and figure out what's going on from like a gut health perspective, trying different products, seeing different estheticians, like disgusting amounts of money. So if someone came to me and was like, I know exactly what's going on here and I can deliver you a solution, like I would pay everything I've already paid to that person. So our clients have spent so much money and probably a lot of stuff that doesn't work well for them. So they're already spending all of this money. And I'm not saying like now they can just spend more with you. Like that's not what I'm trying to say here. What I'm trying to say is that you may actually save them money. In fact, you will, if you can sign them on for coaching for 6 to 12 months. And now they're in like such a better place for the rest of their lives, which that should be the goal of your coaching, right? versus them just continuing to throw money into the multi-billion-dollar diet industry and going nowhere. So ultimately, you're saving them money if you think about it that way, which you should be thinking about it that way. So, okay, at this point, I hope that you're thinking about sales at least a little bit differently, or even just challenging maybe some of the unsupportive beliefs that you have about sales and selling. Because if you're holding on to those unsupportive beliefs, it's 110%, like whether you realize it or not, it is going to hold you back, if not already is holding you back. Because what you don't realize is when you have these beliefs, they are showing up in your ability to sell effectively. So that is like, that really, it just had to be the first however long third of this podcast episode, because it really is so important, just like what you think about it.
Okay, taking a quick break here to talk to you about something I know you want more of: clients. Getting more client applications, making more sales. This stuff feels a lot harder these days. I mean, I used to be able to post a donut on Instagram and get like 20 client applications. What used to work just doesn't seem to work anymore, but that doesn't mean you're out of luck. The one thing I've seen to continue to work over the years with my students, my business mentorship clients, and of course in my own business too, no matter what social media looks like or how the industry is changing, this one thing will never go out of style and will always work. And that one thing is mindset and psychology. This really is the ultimate sales trick, but it's really not a trick at all. Signing more clients and having them stick around with you longer is so much less about sales and marketing and so much more about just understanding how humans make decisions and get motivated to change. You're used to me sharing all the time on the podcast about education around coaching practices, but this mindset and behavior change coaching stuff should start before the coaching relationship even kicks off. One of my most popular and affordable workshop series has recently been totally revamped and upgraded: The Psychology of Signing More Clients. I am super stoked to share with you some of my favorite science-backed strategies for attracting more clients and feeling good when you do it. No icky sales tactics over here. Make sure you check out the show notes to learn more about the psychology of signing more clients.
Okay. The specific thing, though, I want to get into is the stages of change. And if you've learned from me before, you've been around on my Instagram content, you've likely heard me talk about the stages of change before. It's actually the more research-oriented name for the stages of change is the trans-theoretical model. But if I said that, you would all probably be like, yeah, I don't want to listen to the rest of this. But I talk a lot about the stages of change at both levels of the health mindset coaching certification. This is essentially a well-validated model that describes how people go about making changes and sort of like the stepwise process that people go through in order to make changes, and kind of like the thoughts that they're having along the way. So just like anything human behavior and client psychology, like what we do from a coaching perspective can likely also be applied to the sales and marketing process, kind of like the process that comes before actually signing on and working with that client. So I want to take the stages of change, and I'll talk about each of these stages with you and explain not necessarily how in a coaching context it works. That's a lot of what we talk about inside HMCC, talking about like how to speak to clients who are at different stages of change, how to help them move along the stages of change so they can get to a place where they're maintaining that change, all that good stuff. But we're going to talk about it from a sales perspective. It's actually really cool because part of the reason I even wanted to like make this the cornerstone of this podcast episode is because of my students, because they have been using the stages of change in their sales process and have had a lot of really great success with it. I'm thinking about two students specifically that I've talked to in the last like few months who are getting on sales calls, consult calls, discovery calls, whatever you call them, and walking through that person, the stages of change. And it's been really, really helpful to help that client feel confident about hiring that coach, my students. And it's really great for them because not only does it help them make sales is what I'm trying to get at here, right? But the reason why it does help is because, like, tell me how many coaches out there are getting on a discovery call with a prospective client and saying, hey, I'm a behavior change and mindset focused health and fitness coach. And one of the things that we're going to talk about in our coaching process is the stages of change and how people go about changing and human behavior. So I'm going to pull up this diagram of the different stages of change and walk through them. And I want you to tell me where you think you're at right now. And this is beautiful because, again, this is now the coach is able to use a very concrete example with this prospective client about what type of coaching they're getting into. It's not just like, I'm a mindset coach because it's in my Instagram bio. No, like, let me show you what I know about human behavior and how people change and how I can help you change based on that. But also, they're enlisting the client, the prospective client, in that conversation and having them say, like, oh, this is what you need to know about me. This is where I am. And that's why I think I'm maybe at this stage. And then the coach can go in and say, okay, that's really helpful for me to know because I don't want to make assumptions about where you're at. Like, you know yourself best. And now here's the process of how we would start to help you along the stages so you can make those changes. So yeah, I don't think there's many coaches out there who are doing something like that on a sales call. So, and it's great too, because then the clients can feel very confident in like the future pacing that's going to happen, or I guess the coach rather is future pacing the client so they can feel more confident in the direction that they would go if they decided to hire this coach, right? And of course, you can't do any of this if you don't understand the stages of change, if you don't understand human behavior and mindset at this level. So if you're listening to all of this and you're like, wait a second, this is what you teach inside the health mindset coaching certification, like, obviously, if you want to learn more, there is a link in the show notes. You can actually, when you sign up for the waitlist for HMCC, you get 5 free lessons from me. So if you want to learn a little bit more, there you have it. But okay, so now that I've kind of set the stage of the stages of change and how it has been leveraged, I've seen it firsthand work from a selling perspective. And we know after decades of research that it's really helpful to understand from a behavior change perspective. The stages, let's get into them. So the first stage is pre-contemplation. And this is essentially, like, bare bones explanation here. Someone has no plans to change right now. If they're in the pre-contemplation stage, they don't even have a desire to change. From there, we have the contemplation stage, where they are starting to consider change. Like, maybe this is something that I should look into. The preparation stage comes next, and this is where people start to kind of take some first steps to making those change. Like, they're actually starting to get themselves in motion, and then we have action, where they are actively doing things to change. And then finally, maintenance, which is essentially the sustaining of that change. And it's important to note too that although, yes, this can be like a step-by-step process, and the goal is that we're helping clients move along that process, people can like exit and re-enter that process kind of at any stage. They can go backwards and then forwards and then leave altogether and come back in. Like, it doesn't always just go, it's not neat and tidy, because humans are not neat and tidy. We are complex creatures. So, okay. So that's the foundation of the stages of change: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. So now applying this from more of a sales perspective, the first step is to understand what your prospective clients are actually thinking about at each of these stages, and then based on that, how you can alter your marketing process, how you speak to prospective clients based on those stages. And my recommendation is that you keep in mind that people are at different stages. when they're viewing your Instagram content, when they're getting your email newsletters, whatever. Even if you're, and of course, when you're actually speaking to someone who might be interested in coaching, like you don't necessarily know where they're at yet. But if you did, and that's why it works so well when you're using it on sales calls, then you can better speak to where they're at and how they're feeling, which is so important. Okay, so then when we're looking at each of these stages, what's potentially going on in the minds of your prospective client. So with pre-contemplation, this is like no real plans to change. They may be thinking to themselves, what problem? Like, I don't even need this Instagram content. This is not relevant to me because I don't have the desire to change right now. I want to make it clear that we should not be trying to convince people that they have a problem or create a problem where there isn't one, just so that they will hire us as coaches. That is icky sales tactics. That's not what we're doing here, but instead helping people develop awareness around problems that they may have that a lot of people don't realize that they do. And I think that's so much of health and fitness. It's so much of everything. Like I see that so much with like my business coaching clients too, where it's just like things aren't working, but I don't know what my issue is. So can you help me locate the issue? Like there's clearly an issue, but I don't know what it is. So in this case, in your content, how are you maybe showcasing common mistakes, or if you're talking about like I love using client case studies and saying, this is where my client Melissa was before she came to us. And this is what was going through her head. Here's the roadblocks she was running into. What she didn't realize is that XYZ could have been done differently, or her mindset was really like an underlying issue or something like that. So maybe someone who's like, I don't have a problem, like I'm just where I'm at, whatever, they come across that and they may go, oh, maybe my mindset's something that is holding me back. And now they're curious and now they're thinking about it. So again, I think I want to make it really clear because I don't want this to seem like we're trying to create problems where there aren't any. And there are people who genuinely don't need your help right now or ever. And we don't want to be like preying on those people. Those are not the people that we want to be like having sales discussions with even, right? So, okay, contemplation, next stage. So this is where people are considering change. They're thinking to themselves like, is this something I want to do? Should I make this change? And those people, they need to see specific content. I think a lot of times this is like the lurkers in your Instagram content, on your email marketing list. They open things, they read them, but then don't spend a lot of time there. But now they're kind of thinking to themselves like, yeah, maybe I should try something like that or do something, but they haven't taken any action yet. So when we're thinking about those people, what do they need to know? How can you talk about whether maybe you use macro tracking in your coaching practices and talk about tracking macros and the value and the utility behind it? I think it's important for people who are at this stage to see things as really valuable, see them as like attractive and appealing, because at this stage they're wondering, should I even change in the first place? Is this something I want to do? And if the cons heavily outweigh the pros, then they're not going to want to make the change. So just making things seem more feasible, doable, valuable, fun, enjoyable could be something really good for people at this stage. The next stage is preparation. So at this point, someone is maybe taking the first steps to change, thinking like, can I do this? If I take these steps, what would that even look like for me? They're really starting to like put themselves in that situation. So think about things that might be getting in the way of this person believing that they can change. Because if they don't think they can change, then why would they hire you? So now they may be like at this place, this preparation stage, they're thinking, I want to make this change, but I'm not sure that I'm capable of doing it. Like that could be what's still holding them back. So maybe showcase different processes that you use in your coaching. I love a good framework. This is what I teach like my business mentorship clients a lot, is like to develop a framework inside your coaching business so you can use that to describe to prospective clients and give them sort of like it's comforting to know that you have a process and you have a quote unquote like proven method that you use with your clients to help them like really see that change is possible for them. And thinking about in your content, how can you help these people who might be sitting in this stage really start to feel like, wow, this is something that I can do? Because then they'll make their way to the next stage, which is action. And this is actively pursuing the change process. Depending on how you look at it, this could be someone did already hire you and they're doing the thing, or maybe they're trying some stuff on their own. They know they want to change. They're starting to take those steps, figuring out what those steps look like and getting more serious about it, right? So this is where I really encourage you guys to talk about your offer directly. The number of coaches out there, like, I can't get any clients. And I'm like, you never talk about your coaching. You never talk directly about your offer and how people can work with you. So people who are in this stage and are ready to take action and you're not giving them the ability to do so, then that's a problem, right? So how can you make these people feel safe that you have the solution and you got them and this is the best direction for them? Thinking about that inside your content, inside your marketing, inside your conversations with prospective clients. And then finally, we are at the maintenance phase. So this is where they're trying to sustain the change and keep it going. And actually, it's possible that you have people in your audience that have already made changes to their health and fitness and lifestyle and want some accountability, that sort of thing. Obviously, we could also be talking about your current clients and them maintaining their change. So you have to keep in mind, though, that even once you sign a client, the work isn't over. Yes, they've taken action. Yes, they've decided to work with you. But this is where so many coaches don't realize that it doesn't stop there, that doubts are going to creep in, especially in like the first month of coaching. They'll start thinking to themselves, like, was this the right choice for me? Is this something that I see myself continuing to do? Like, am I just throwing money away? Is this person the right fit for me? So if you're just like, cool, they signed up, now they're bought in and we're ready to go. Like, no, that's not the case. Like, this is where like adherence issues really start too. So you have to consider doubts that are coming up for them and making sure that you're checking in with them and that they're feeling supported and you're not just making the assumption that because they paid you that they're good now. Okay, so that's what I have for you. Kind of like, I'm going to say this and you're going to be like, was it? It's kind of high level on how stages of change can be applied to selling. And it is high level and there is a lot more detail. If you want it, it's totally up to you. But if you enjoyed this and you're like, this is interesting stuff, and I don't really approach sales and selling this way, that is what the Psychology of Signing More Clients DIY workshop series is all about. And again, that link is in the show notes if you want to check it out. I did just recently redo the entire thing, and it is beautiful. And we love her. So you can get in there. It's a super, super affordable way to get started with psychology inside your sales and marketing practices. And I think if you like things that I've been saying on this podcast, if you like my content, you are going to nerd out and have so much fun with it. And you'll probably leave feeling excited about selling and marketing, which is like my biggest hope for you. So something to keep in mind too that I wanted to mention is like, the things that you hear all of the time, right? No like and trust factor. You have to make sure your audience knows you and likes you and trusts you if you want them to buy from you. Yes, sure. But there's so much more nuance to that and so much more understanding that you need in order to actually do it. It's just like, it sounds so simple, but it's really not. We do get into that in the Psychology of Signing More Clients. Another big thing that I hear all the time is like, give away your best stuff for free. And yes, you should be giving away free value. Like, hi, hello, this is why I'm sitting here speaking to you lovely people right now. But there's so much more to it than that too. And how you are presenting that free information is really important. and we need to consider psychology and human decision making in our free content as well. And again, that is something that I do get into even further in the Psychology of Signing More Clients DIY workshop series. So inside that workshop, I do get into more of like specific, I think there's like 5 psychology principles to include in your selling with like specific examples and stuff and how to include it in your content. But I did want to give you something here. I'm not just going to tell you go buy the workshop if you want the answers. Like, you can surely take these stages of change and start thinking about them, whether it's in the sales and marketing process or in your coaching process with your clients. And just even recognizing that people are at different stages and we need to be speaking to them based on those stages and not just be thinking that everyone's ready to change or everyone knows nothing about changing. You know, there's people run the gamut of where they're at in the change process. And that's just so important to remember. And of course, I will say this again, and I will continue to shout it from the rooftops. We need billboards of this. You can't help people unless you can sell to those people. Okay. That is all I have for you, my friends. I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Because I haven't really talked about like sales and marketing and selling like super specifically. I've maybe like here and there as like an example or two. But if this is something you liked, if you want to maybe hear a little bit more of like businessy type of stuff, please let me know, because I love the game of business and I would love to chat with you guys about it some more if it's something that was helpful. So please let me know. I love when you guys reach out to me, send me DMs, let me know what episodes resonated or what you want to see more of. Like, I really do listen to you. Like, I truly take every single one of those messages into account, and that is how I decide and plan episodes for the future. So don't hold back. I want to hear from you. And that's it. That's all for now. And I'll see you next time.